Happy Monday, everybody. Hopefully you didn't just hear that. That's one of the fire alarms in our building going off because it's broken and it just keeps happening. Might happen a couple more times. Sorry, hopefully you can't hear it. My name is Shelby Dwyer, and I'm a counselor at University Health and Counseling Services, and this is Yoga for Mental Wellness, which is a collaboration between University Health and Counseling Services and the Center for Spirituality Dialogue and Service. And today is June 15th. I know that we did not meet last week because it was a day of observance with Northeastern, and so hopefully folks were able to spend that day doing the work that they needed to do and getting informed and educating themselves and also taking time for reflection. Today's practice, per usual, is going to be Yin Yoga. So if you wouldn't mind grabbing potentially 2 blocks if you have them, or you could grab maybe a stack of books or like a couple textbooks, maybe thicker ones. We're actually going to be using these as supports from the get-go. You might want to have a bolster or a pillow with you, as well as a blanket. And just briefly, Yin Yoga, as some folks are probably familiar, it is a really grounding and meditative practice that focuses more on shifting the connective tissues in the body. And those connective tissues are joints, ligaments, and fascia. And the reason that we target those parts of our body instead of the muscles is because these are parts of our bodies that are not normally worked in a workout, a run, a boot camp style workout, anything like that. And they are so important and vital to keeping our body healthy and nourished. The connective tissues in our body support all of the muscles within our body and keep everything intact. So we got to show them some love too. So it's a very distilled down version of it, but whenever you're ready, you'll grab your books or your blocks. And we're going to start off in fish pose. And you might be familiar with this if you've taken yoga classes, but you'll want one of your blocks perhaps on the highest height at one end of your mat. The second block you can put on maybe like medium height. So lowest height would be the block would be flat. Medium height is one step above. Highest, tallest. Yeah, cool. And then that one will be somewhere just a little bit away from the tall block or the bigger textbook. And then you'll turn to have your back toward the blocks or the supports. And you'll want the lower one, the one that's on the medium height, to hit somewhere just around the shoulder blades, like the edge of the shoulder blades. And then the tallest block will go underneath your head. And if you're using books, play around with the height. If you find that they don't stay up, you can maybe stack a couple pillow cushions if you'd like. The idea here in this shape is that we're opening across the chest. We're letting the shoulders melt towards the floor. And part of this is it's a really nice counter pose, counter shape, something. I can't think of the word. It's a good way to counteract. There we go. It's a good way to counteract all the hunching forward that we do over the computer. At least I personally am doing a lot of that these days. You could potentially let your legs go long. That's going to really enhance the opening across the front of the body. Really let your pelvis be heavy. You could keep your legs bent. That's going to allow for a little bit more support in the low back. And your arms can be alongside you, maybe even out almost like in a T shape. I have a wall next to me, so I can't really do that. And alternatively, you could play around with sort of like reaching your arms back, but don't do this for too long because your arms are sort of suspended in the air. And you can gently bring them back. Wherever you are, see if you can breathe really deeply into your belly here. Maybe close your eyes if it feels safe to do so. Allow your jaw to relax. Your eyes can be soft. Let your tongue rest gently in your mouth. Your eyes are heavy in their sockets. See if you can consciously relax all the little muscles along your spine. Your hands are also relaxed. Really let your head be supported by the block or the book beneath you. So notice if maybe you're allowing your neck to do some work to keep your head upright, and really just let it go. Let your head be heavy, your neck soft. Really allowing for your brain and your body to both be on your mat, rather than your brain thinking of all the to-dos that you have to get to, or whatever it might be. If at any point anything is pinching or tight, feel free to adjust. So you've been in this shape for a couple minutes, and notice if anything needs to be changed. You might, if you have your knees bent, you might extend your legs long. You could also adjust the block behind your head to potentially a lower height to allow for a bit more of an opening across the throat. But again, if you do this, really let the head just hang heavy without trying to support it with your neck. Notice how breathing into the low belly really enhances the stretch that you might feel across your torso and the front of your body. Really just letting your body, your torso melt over your props, releasing any lingering tension from your day, maybe from the weekend or last week. And we'll be here for less than a minute. And so as you're seeing in this practice, which is Yin Yoga, as I mentioned, we come into a shape and we hold that shape for a period of a few minutes. You'll notice that as we go through different shapes, different postures, different poses, we'll find our edge in that shape or a place where we feel some sensation of discomfort. So right now, here in this heart opener, you might feel the heaviness of your shoulders as they melt towards the floor, maybe an opening and a stretch or an expansion of your chest, maybe a stretch across the belly, your ribs, maybe some pressure in the spine, the low back. You're aware of the sensation in your body, and it's not like you could fall asleep here. Maybe some of you could, I don't know. And it's also not as intense as like, oh my gosh, I need to get out of this right away, right? Speaking of which, bend your knees, plant the soles of your feet on the floor, gently roll over to one side, prop yourself up on your elbow so you can remove the blocks, and then return to lie back down on your back without any props beneath you, allowing your back to be flush against your mat. You could walk your feet to the edges of your mat, knock your knees together, Maybe the arms rest alongside you, or maybe rest them on your belly. Lift your head for a moment, tuck your chin toward your chest, release your head back down to the mat, just to add some space and alleviate any compression in the cervical spine, the back of your neck. And just notice what it feels like now to have your back flush against your mat. How do your shoulders feel? Is there any sensation lingering in your chest? As you feel ready, give yourself a squeeze, pulling your knees in toward your chest. Maybe you even lift your head, reach for your feet, curl up into a really tight ball. Maybe rock from side to side. And then flip over onto your belly. And we'll move into Sphinx Pose. And so for this shape, you might want your book or your block, if you have one nearby, as you might want it as support for your head. But you'll bring your arms into about like a number 11. So the forearms will be parallel, fingers will be spread wide, and hands will press into the mat. Make sure that your elbows aren't winging out to the side and that they are in line with your wrists. And then play around with moving your arms further away from you, further away from the elbows, further away from your shoulders, and see how that changes the stretch, or the compression, that you might feel in the low spine. The closer your elbows are to being underneath your wrists, the more compression you'll feel, in particular in your lumbar spine, the part where there's that little kind of indent. If you take your legs wider apart, that's going to alleviate some of the compression in the back. Legs closer together will increase the compression or pressure that you might feel. Wherever you are, roll the shoulders away, so up, back, and down, or even just pulling them back, so you can imagine that you're sort of pinching your shoulder blades together and down along your back. And imagine that your shoulder blades are helping support your heart and push your heart forward through your arms. If you'd like to rest your head, you can place your block or a book on like a tall height and rest your forehead onto the block. And again, be mindful that, if you start to sort of round through the shoulders, notice that, and then pull the shoulder blades together down your back. Pulling the shoulders also down and away from your ears. Notice what it's like to breathe into your belly into this shape, where you can really feel almost a buoyancy as you breathe in and out. Maybe imagining that the breath could massage all the vertebrae along your spine. If at any point this starts to get too challenging, you can always relax the arms and maybe stack palms and rest your forehead on the back of your hands. Continue breathing deeply here. It's funny, I just bought these flowers this morning and I was like, oh, it'll be so pretty to put in with when I teach yoga for mental wellness later. And I didn't plan that I would flip over to be on my belly and they'd be right in front of me. So this was a really pleasant surprise. And just in case you're wondering, peonies are on sale right now at Whole Foods. You're welcome. Really let your pelvis be heavy, your legs relax. You could almost imagine that you could push your pelvis, your hip points, those two little sort of like knobs, the front of your hips, into the mat, and then allow your spine to really grow and lengthen out of your pelvis. If you're not using a support for your head, you can always tuck your chin slightly just so that you can keep the rest of your spine in line with your back. Sorry. We've got less than a minute here. And for me, sometimes in this shape, my upper shoulders, my traps start to burn a little bit. And if I can consciously, again, pull the shoulder blades down my back, it alleviates some of that tension. Take a long, full breath in here. Exhale, gently allow your torso to melt towards your mat. Maybe stack one hand on top of the other. Rest your cheek or your forehead onto one side. Take a few nourishing, cleansing breaths in and out. Releasing all the tension that you may have experienced in that shape. You might bend your knees so that your feet reach up towards the ceiling and then windshield wiper your feet back and forth. That sometimes helps loosen up the low back. And then allowing your legs to drop back towards your mat whenever you feel complete. And we'll have these moments of stillness or a moment of pause in between each shape when we take a more neutralizing shape. And it's so that the body can really integrate the movement that we've just done. And I'll also invite you, if it feels safe to do so, to just notice what comes up for you in these moments of pause, right? When we're in a neutral shape where there's perhaps no discomfort, nothing really distracting us. And just see if without judgment you can notice if there's any sort of repetitive thoughts or things that come up for you. Continuing on to seal pose now, you'll walk your arms out a bit wider than your mat. And it'll almost be like if you had your hands on your mat, that your middle fingers line up with the corners of the short edge of your mat. So walking the arms out a little bit wider. And then begin to straighten through the arms. Hopefully you can sort of see me. I'm going to try to shimmy a little bit. Oh, that's probably not helpful. But you'll straighten through the arms. And this is a pretty significant back bend, much more than Sphinx. So if this feels like it's too much, you can always come back down to your forearms. And again, play around with the distance of your elbows away from your shoulders or underneath the shoulders. If seal pose feels okay to do and you don't have any back issues, you can, again, come up to straight arms. If you begin to walk your arms out wider, your torso, your heart kind of gets lower towards the ground. That also alleviates some of the pressure in the low back. So find what works for you. Maybe thinking about rolling the elbow creases forward so that you can really sort of pull the shoulder blades away from your ears and down, pressing firmly into all 5 fingers on each hand, even your palms. Again, feet close together is going to really increase the sensation in your low spine. I like to take a wider stance with my feet just to allow for more space in my lumbar spine. And then gaze can always be maybe a couple feet in front of your hands. There's a bug, oops. And again here, really breathe into the low belly and notice how that might even massage out your low spine. With the sensation, you might think about it on a scale from 1 to 10. And so as I mentioned before, we don't want it to be, too gentle. And we also don't want it to be too intense. So thinking about a 4 or 5 out of 10 on a scale where 1 is, I could totally go to sleep, and 10 is, this is excruciating, I need to get out of it. So finding something in the middle. And then to the best of your ability, once you find that 4 or 5 out of 10, allowing yourself to be as relatively still as possible. Perhaps breathing into those areas of discomfort within your body. You want to avoid crunching into the spine as well. So keeping a long spine, imagining that you could sort of grow your torso, your spine out of your pelvis. There's a tiny little fly or a gnat or something on my mat that I think came from the flowers. And it's just hanging out. I think it's practicing mindfulness. It's alive, I promise. Keep taking some deep breaths. We'll be here for maybe a minute or so. This pose can sometimes be challenging. As you feel ready, long breath in. Exhale, gently, slowly bend into your arms, lower your torso really gently and slowly. Oh, there it goes. The little bug is flying off the mat. If you turn your head to one side, you can turn it to the opposite cheek this time. You might wiggle the hips from side to side just to really release the low back. Maybe windshield wiper the feet again. And then again, just a momentary pause in this rebound or resonant shape where we'll just lie on our mat for a moment, allowing the body to absorb the movement that we've just done, letting the spine return to its more habitual state. Again, noticing without judgment what thoughts, what emotions, whatever it might be that arise for you in these moments of stillness. Really letting the breath massage out the low spine, the back. Big full breath in here. Exhale, let it go. Slowly use your arms to prop yourself up for a moment. And yogi's choice, you can bring your knees wide to the edges of your mat, sit your hips back toward your heels. You could also bring your knees close together. We're going to be taking child's pose. Knees close together will offer a bit more support for the low back. Knees wider apart will really let your torso melt forward down to the earth. So you might start off with knees close together. And I recommend, if you'd like, you can always bring your book or a block on the lowest height to rest your forehead on. Arms can reach relaxed, long in front of you, or you could also allow the arms to just be heavy alongside you, or maybe grasping opposite forearm behind your back just to add a little bit of pressure so that the hips sink more towards the heels. If you find that your hips are really far away from your heels, you can bring your pillow or a blanket in between the hips and heels to add some support. And at the same time, if you find that this is a little too intense on your knees or your ankles, supporting those parts of your body accordingly with a blanket can be helpful. So coming into child's pose, or that embryo pose where your arms are draped alongside you, fingertips graze the heels. Really let yourself settle in here. Ensure that you have enough space in your torso, your midsection, to be able to breathe just as fully as you did when you're on our back at the start of the class. If you're supporting your neck and you notice that it feels like there's a bit of compression, you can always release your head towards your mat. You've been in this shape for a few moments, so you might want to adjust your knees, maybe taking them out wider if you have them close together. You could also stay exactly as you are, and maybe potentially you're noticing, like me, that it's a little bit too intense of a sort of like a forward bend. I don't know, I'm having a lot of blood rush toward my head in this shape today. I think it's because I'm dehydrated. You can stack your palms and rest your head on your hands for a little bit of support, but not as much support as you get from being on a book or a block. Really letting your torso melt over or between your thighs, noticing the breath, how it moves and expands your ribs as you breathe in and out. Feeling your ribs move against your thighs, your legs. And this shape can be really nice to do before bed as a way to sort of calm the nervous system, as it sends this signal of safety as we're protecting all of our major organs, that sort of are housed in our torso region. We're covering them and securing them, supporting them, so that it sends that signal of safety to the body. This pose, for some people, can also be really useful to offer some grounding as it brings the entire body close to the earth. Relax your jaw. Allow your face to be soft. Might feel an expansion across the shoulder blades, an elongation of your spine. Maybe some pressure in the hip flexors. Maybe even a stretch across your quads, the tops of your thighs. Maybe some pressure on the tops of your feet and your ankles, or a stretch there. We won't be here for too much longer. Take a long, full breath in. Exhale, gently begin to walk your arms straight to lift your torso. Swing your hips over to one side and then extend your legs long in front of you for a moment. Take a few deep breaths here to just allow got a little lightheaded there. Allow the blood to just kind of return back to its normal flow. You might bring your hands alongside your hips, press into the floor gently, and just create a long spine here. Tips of your ears, crown of your head reaching towards the ceiling. Chin parallel to the floor. You might grab a tissue if you're stuffy, because sometimes when we're in those forward bends, it can sometimes get a little stuffy. I don't know if you can hear me. You might roll out the ankles, point and flex the feet. And also gently roll out your wrists, since we had worked them a little bit in seal pose. And then we'll move into deer pose. And so your left shin will come to the long edge of your mat, or will be parallel to the long edge of your mat. Your right shin will be parallel to the short edge of your mat. So it's almost like your legs are sort of in like a Z shape. And you'll be leaning predominantly on your left hip. And so here you could choose to begin to walk yourself forward, maybe coming onto forearms. You could bring your books or blocks in front of your left shin, maybe resting your forearms on there. Alternatively, if you want to make this into a twist, you might bring your pillow or your bolster. And have it be perpendicular to your left thigh, just outside your left thigh, your left hip. And then you could potentially turn your torso over towards the left and then allow yourself to melt over that bolster or pillow. That's going to sort of wring out the spine, maybe apply some more pressure in the left hip. You could also make this like a little bit more of a gentle pose and just rest the left side of your body onto the bolster or pillow. So again, find what works for you here. It's definitely going to change the sensation you feel, in particular through your legs. And so if you're bending forward, you might notice that this increases the stretch that you feel on the outer right hip, outer right thigh, maybe even along the groin and the inner leg line. Gaze can be toward your hands if you're folding forward over your left leg. And I didn't say this, but your knees will be coming out directly from the hip on both legs. Oops, I'm going to move my one leg over. And then your ankles are coming out directly from the knees as well. Obviously, knees are bent here. Again, ensure that you have enough space to breathe in your midsection. Maybe again, breathing deeply into the belly, as that does offer the body a sense of calm and encourages the activation of the parasympathetic nervous system, which is that rest and digest part of our autonomic nervous system. I don't think I've said this before, but you'll notice that I check my Fitbit and it's literally me checking to see how long we've been in a shape. I promise I'm not getting messages or anything like that. I actually don't have that enabled on this because I try to practice mindfulness and intentionalism, as my friend Sarah calls it, with technology. If anything starts to go numb or tingly, just gently adjust. That might mean bringing yourself up to more straight arms so that there's not as much pressure on the left hip and the left leg. If you're finding that since we've been in this shape for a few moments that the sensation has dissipated and you maybe want a little bit more, you could always move your torso further towards the earth if you are bending over your left leg. If you're twisting to the left over your bolster, let me turn that. You might just twist gently a little bit deeper, although deeper is not always better. So be mindful if there's a pinching or pain, tightness, pulling, sharpness. We want to avoid that. We'll be here for less than a minute. As you feel ready, big, deep breath in. Exhale, gently straighten the arms. Allow yourself to come back up to a neutral position. Maybe that's with the legs extended. Maybe it's a brief cross-legged position, but figure out what would feel best for you in this moment. And then again, just allow yourself that moment of pause in a more neutral shape. Again, checking in with yourself, checking in internally if there's any lingering sensation that you might be experiencing, or maybe there's even a shift that you're experiencing from when you first stepped onto your mat today. Notice the quality of your thoughts, again, without judgment. The depth of your breath. Maybe even notice your heartbeat if you can get still enough and quiet enough in your mind and in the space. Whenever you feel ready at your own pace, we'll move to deer pose on the other side. So this time our right shin will be parallel to the long edge of our mat. Again, cue it better this time. Your right knee will be coming directly out from the hip. Right ankle directly in line with the knee. Your left shin will be parallel with the short edge of your mat. Left knee coming out from the thigh, from the hip. Left ankle directly in line with the knee. Again, you could bring maybe your blocks or your books in front of your right shin and maybe start to walk your arms forward, maybe coming onto forearms. This is more for if you want to have some, simply put, more pressure in the right hip, the outer right hip. If you wanted to try and bring in a twist to your spine and maybe work the spine a little bit more, you could begin to shift your torso over towards the right, really continuing to root down through the right side of your pelvis, maybe even pressing into your left knee. Sorry, I'm mirroring you and I sometimes mix up right and left. And then as you feel ready, gently folding forward over your bolster, maybe turning your head to one side. I don't know if you can hear that, but somebody is outside playing guitar and singing really loud. Somebody is very happy, it sounds like. So if you can hear it, I hope you enjoy. So wherever you are in this shape, you potentially might be feeling maybe some pressure in the right hip, outer right hip. Maybe a stretch across the groin muscles, the inner leg line. You know from the first side that we aren't in this shape forever. So find that 4 or 5 out of 10, and then see if you can hold in relative stillness, relaxing the muscles in your legs and your feet, allowing your jaw to be soft. Make sure that you have enough space in your torso to be able to breathe deeply. I'm going to get up and close my window, but stay where you are. Just want to make sure that I can minimize distractions. So you've been in this shape for a few moments, so notice if anything needs to be adjusted, if you want to maybe return to folding over your right leg, or maybe getting that twist in the spine to melt over your bolster. My bolster is currently covered in cat hair right now because I have 3 cats. Yes, you heard that right, 3 cats. We've got less than a minute here. And again, if anything is pinching or tight or there's burning, anything, you can always begin to straighten the arms just to alleviate some of that pressure on the right leg. As you feel ready, big, deep breath in. Exhale, straighten through the arms. And then, however you get there, you can come to lie down on your back. Got just a couple more shapes. When you're on your back, you might hug your knees into your chest for a moment, give yourself a squeeze, rock from side to side to just gently massage out your low spine. Every time I breathe in deeply, when my head's by the flowers, I just smell flowers. It's really lovely. Highly recommend. Extend your legs long towards the ceiling for a moment. Keep a soft bend in your knees. Let the feet be relaxed and hang heavy. And then as you feel ready, gently bend the knees, lower your feet to the ground. Extend your legs long. And then you'll walk your legs over towards the right side of your mat, keeping your torso as it is. You might cross your left ankle over your right. Reach your arms over your head, maybe long, maybe in a cactus shape. And then gently begin to walk your head, your shoulders, your arms over also towards the right top corner of your mat, so that you're coming into this almost like a crescent moon shape, or what's known in Yin Yoga as Bananasana. So literally like a banana. Your gaze can be towards the ceiling, or you could gaze towards the right side of your space. And see if you can direct your breath into the left side of your ribs. Allowing the breath to enhance the stretch that you're getting on the left side of your body, left side of your ribs. Maybe imagining that the breath could almost travel up to your left armpit and breathe into that part where you're potentially also feeling a stretch. Allow your shoulders to be heavy on the mat. Your pelvis is also heavy on the mat. Really breathe deeply here. Allowing the breath to fill up the low belly. Maybe allow the ribs to flare out. Maybe the chest even rises gently as you reach a full inhale. And exhale, everything gently begins to deflate. full breath in allows your belly to rise, the ribs to expand. Maybe heart gently lifts. Exhale, chest, ribs, belly soften. One more big full breath. Exhale, release. Walk your legs, your arms, your head back to center for a moment. Maybe rest your hands on your belly. Let your limbs go limp. Again, just do a quick check-in with your body. Noticing your thoughts, your breath. As you feel ready, walking your legs over towards the left edge of your mat, maybe resting your right ankle on top of your left. Raising your arms overhead and arching up and over the left side, keeping your torso, your hips in the same space, in that neutral place in the middle of your mat. Your arms reach over towards the left. Coming into Bananasana on the other side. Really breathing deeply into the right side waist now. Can you breathe into the low belly? Taking those deep inhales that allow the belly to rise, the ribs to flare out. Maybe chest lifts a little. Exhale, everything softens. Breathing fully and deeply. Clearing out anything that you don't need from your day, from the weekend, from the week before. Take another long, full breath in. Exhale, sigh it out. Slowly walk your legs back toward neutral. Maybe allow the arms to rest alongside you. Palms face up. Maybe hands rest on your belly. Lift your chin for a moment. Tuck your chin toward your chest and lower your head back down again to give some space to your cervical spine, the back of your neck. And fidget as much as you need to allow yourself to get comfortable for Shavasana, this final resting pose. If it would feel better for you to sit upright with your eyes closed or a soft gaze, that's always an option as well. So either lying down, sitting upright, whatever would feel more comfortable for you. And allow yourself a moment to rest, to relax. It is a privilege and a luxury to do nothing in this moment, and we also deserve a moment to pause, to breathe, to rest, to take care of ourselves. And I'd like to offer a poem that I came across in a book called Devotions by Mary Oliver. That's just a bunch of her poems that she wrote. She was a really wonderful poet who actually lived in P-Town, I think, for a little bit. Even now, I remember something. The way a flower in a jar of water remembers its life in the perfect garden. The way a flower in a jar of water remembers its life as a closed seed. The way a flower in a jar of water steadies itself, remembering itself. Long ago, the plunging roots, the gravel, the rain, the glossy stem, the wings of the leaves, the swords of the leaves, rising and clashing for the rose of the sun, the salt of the stars, the crown of the wind, the beds of the clouds, the blue dream, the unbreakable circle. Continuing to breathe normally without effort. Again, allowing yourself a moment to pause, to rest. Being a non-judgmental observer of your thoughts, of emotions. As you feel ready, take a big, long breath in. And sigh it out. Slowly first moving the body with your breath. And maybe opening and closing the palms, opening and closing your jaw. Maybe gently turning your head from side to side slowly. If you're on your back, hug your knees into your chest. Give yourself a squeeze one more time. And gently roll yourself over to your side at your own pace. Whenever you feel ready, coming to sit in a cross-legged position on your mat, perhaps with your eyes closed or a soft gaze at a non-moving point in front of you. Long spine, shoulders over your hips, ears over your shoulders, crown of your head reaching towards the ceiling, chin parallel to the floor. If you'd like, bring your right hand to rest over your heart. Actually, we're going to switch that. Bring your left hand to rest over your heart, fingers spread wide. And bring your right hand to rest over your left. Apply a gentle pressure so that you can feel the weight of your hands on your heart. Offer yourself gratitude for making the time to do this practice today. Offer your body gratitude for being able to move in the way that it did and the way that it supports you each and every day. Offer gratitude toward those virtually around you who also took part in this class live, as well as those who will watch it later. And extend gratitude out toward those you love and care about. Take a long breath in. Exhale. Second one, big breath in. And exhale. Last one, full deep breath in. Exhale, let it go. Slowly release your hands to your legs. Tuck your chin toward your chest. Gently begin to blink open your eyes and come back to the space. Thank you all so much for being here, again, for making the time to do this practice and to take care of your mental health. We will be back here in a week, so on the 22nd for more live yoga. I wish you all well. Please stay safe and healthy, and talk with you soon. Thank you.